Sunday after the Epiphany. For decades, our U.S. military has had a great advantage. In fact, we pride ourselves in owning the night because of the night vision technology that we have. That gives us an advantage. The darker it gets, the more our advantage is. Today, God shares with us this night vision technology that his people have. They give us an advantage no matter how dark it gets. We have the light of the knowledge of God's mercy and grace with the light of our Savior Jesus shining in the light of his holy word. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. We'll sing our first song. Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you.
And also with you.
We have come into the presence of God, who created us to love and serve him as his dear children. But we have disobeyed him and deserve only his wrath and punishment. Therefore, let us confess our sins to him and plead for his mercy.
Merciful Father in heaven, I am altogether sinful from birth.
In countless ways I have sinned against you, and do not deserve to be called your child. But trusting in Jesus, my Savior, I pray. Have mercy on me, according to your unfailing love. Cleanse me from my sin, and take away my guilt. God, our Heavenly Father, has forgiven all your sins by the perfect life and innocent death of our Lord Jesus Christ. He has removed your guilt forever. You are his own dear child. May God give you strength to live according to his will. Amen. In the peace of forgiveness, let us praise the Lord. Almighty God, you sent your Son to proclaim your kingdom and to teach with authority. Anoint us with the power of your Spirit, that we too may bring good news to the afflicted, bind up the brokenhearted, and proclaim liberty to the captive, through Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Our first scripture lesson is from the first chapter of the first letter to the Corinthians, verses 10 through 17. And not very often will you hear a pastor not saying that getting to perform baptisms is one of the highest honors and privileges, most joyful things he gets to do. And yet, here the little cliques and the divisiveness in St. Paul's congregation had gotten to the point where he says, "I'm glad I never baptized any of you." It's amazing. How could there be cliques and divisiveness and splits in the body of Christ? 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 10 through 17. Brothers, I'm making an appeal to you using the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. I ask that you all express the same view and not have any divisions among you, but that you be joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. For the news I've heard about you, my brothers, from members of Chloe's household, is that there are rivalries among you. What I mean is that each of you says, "I belong to Paul," or "I belong to Apollos," or "I belong to Cephas," or "I belong to Christ." Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Or were you baptized into the name of Paul? I thank God that I did not baptize any of you except Crispus and Gaius, so no one could say that I baptized you into my own name. I also baptized the household of Stephanas. Besides them, I did not know whether I baptized anyone else. For Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, not with the wisdom used in speeches, so that the cross of Christ would not be emptied of its power. This is God's word. Also God's word, our psalm for the day that speaks of joy from being in the presence of the Lord. It says, being in the presence of the Lord in his holy word makes it so that we can overcome the darkness. In fact, it makes it so we can overcome any outside concerns. Stay with the Lord, because that's where true light and joy and peace are found. Psalm 27.
turned away in anger, you have been my helper. Do not reject me or forsake me, O God, my Savior. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Shall I be afraid? Of whom shall I be afraid? Though my father and my mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. I am still confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. Glory be to the Father and to the Son and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now and will be forever. Amen. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Shall I be afraid? Of whom shall I be afraid? Alleluia, alleluia. Praise the Lord, all you nations. Worship him, every race of people, for his mercy overwhelms us, and the faithfulness of the Lord endures forever. Alleluia. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due his name. Bring a gift and come into his courtyards. Alleluia. Our gospel lesson for this day is written for us in the 4th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel. And here we see the meaning of Epiphany. Epiphany means the light shines in where it was dark before. And where the true light shines, those enlightened want to stay in that light, and they want to bring other people to that light as well. Matthew chapter 4, verses 12 through 23. When Jesus heard that John was put in prison, he withdrew into Galilee. He left Nazareth and went to live in Capernaum, which is by the sea in the region of Zebulun and Naphtali. He did this to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. Land of Zebulun and land of Naphtali, along the way of the sea, beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles, the people dwelling in darkness have seen a great light. And on those dwelling in the region in the shadow of death, a light has dawned. From that time, Jesus began to preach, "Repent, because the kingdom of heaven is near." As Jesus was walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the sea, since they were fishermen. He said to them, "Come, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." They immediately left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in the boat with their father Zebedee, mending their nets. Jesus called them. Immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Jesus traveled throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every disease and every sickness among the people. This is the gospel of our Lord.
Amen.
Grace, mercy, and peace are yours from God our Father and our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Part of God's word for our consideration this morning is written for us in the book of the prophet Isaiah, starting with chapter 8, verse 19. When they tell you, consult the mediums and the spiritists who whisper and mutter, shouldn't people consult their God? Should they consult the dead on behalf of the living? To the law and to the testimony, if people do not speak according to this word, there will be no dawn for them. They will pass through the land distressed and starving. But when this takes place and they are starving, they will be frustrated, and they will curse their king and their God. They will turn their faces upward, and then they will look down to the ground. But I tell you, they will see only distress, darkness, and the gloom that brings anguish. They will be banished into thick darkness. Nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for the land that was in anguish. In former times he humbled the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, but in the latter time he will cause it to be glorious along the way of the sea, beyond the Jordan, in Galilee of the Gentiles. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. For those living in the land of the shadow of death, the light has dawned. This is the gospel of our Lord. Dear friends in Christ, remember that mine collapse in Chile about 10 years ago? 33 miners, 2,300 feet below the surface of the earth, trapped there for 69 days. That was just till the first ones got out of there. For over 2.5 weeks, they had absolutely no contact with the outside world. They faced hunger, thirst, disease, all kinds of dangers, but the way they tell it, the worst thing that they faced in all of that was darkness. Darkness, dangerous darkness. Yeah, you could run into something that was a very treacherous terrain inside that mine, and you could not see your hand in front of your face. But that wasn't the worst part about it. There's something about our metabolisms. There's something about your vitamin deficiencies when you don't have connection with the sun that just makes things bad for you. It makes you have certain kinds of depressive and despondent feelings and certain psychological mental behaviors that cause a lot of anguish. I think we can understand that because they say even people that live in northern latitudes or people who live in cloudy climates can sometimes experience some of this kind of depressive feeling. So imagine completely cut off from the light. Light does a lot of bad things, the lack of light, doesn't it? I mean, we talk about crime going up where there's a lot of darkness. It's proven that when it's dark, people are less inhibited. Their old sinful nature comes out even more. In fact, they've done a lot of studies to see that crimes like assault and property theft and things like that go up when it's darker. And if you put lights into certain urban areas, it makes the crime rate go down. Darkness can cause a lot of bad things. But the worst kind of darkness is a spiritual darkness. A darkness that makes it so people are violently and stubbornly thinking and saying and doing things that God says are not right, are not true. And I guess then you'd have to say that we live in a time of great darkness, don't we? We see the immorality around us. It's like an open cesspool of behavior. We see where the value of human life is just so depreciated so much. Where people don't want to hear what God has to say, and there's terrorism, there's hatred, there's persecution of Christians, there's abuse and scorn for even Christian thinking. And we could go on and on and on talking about that, but it's not news at all, is it? God's been talking about it for a long, long time. All of his prophets he sent along with this kind of a message about the darkness and wake up, come to the light, get out of the darkness, or there's going to be even darker darkness, a fearful darkness of judgment. And then, of course, the final consequence could be the outer darkness. The Bible describes hell as being that separation of the light from the light for good. So I guess it's always been this way. As we hear from God's prophet Isaiah this morning, talking 7 centuries before the cure came into our world in that little town called Bethlehem. And yet he could be saying the same exact thing right here in our society, right now in our present day, couldn't he? I mean, listen how he introduces our text. Woe to those people who drag their guilt behind them with cords of lies. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who substitute darkness for light and light for darkness. Like the people in Isaiah's day, the people in our day live in a sin-darkened world. But no matter how dark it gets right now, no matter how dark it was back then, God has something so bright it can shine through anything. In fact, it seems like God's light does shine all the brighter the darker it gets around. Kind of like the way the stars shine the brightest when the sky is the very darkest. Think, for example, when our first parents had gotten themselves expelled from the paradise garden park of God's Eden. They had rebelled against God. They had rejected his perfect plan for them, and they were being kicked out of the garden. It was the darkest of dark times, and yet before they could even get their bags packed to leave, here comes this brightest message of all shining through, saying that a conqueror was coming to crush the head of this serpent that had deceived them and had ruined everything for all of us. Or think of when God's people, as he was setting them up to be the incubator for his son, how God's people were in abject poverty and the worst miserable kind of slavery under the most powerful rule at that time, and even with God's forceful plagues, not seeming to have any effect at all on the leader letting these people go, how yet in that most darkened time for them, there was this really bright light, this message of this Messiah, this Savior, that this type of Jesus in that Passover lamb whose blood they painted on their doors so that the avenger of blood wouldn't harm any of them. Or you think of what was going on in Isaiah's day, a very dark, a very foreboding day, as this people that was set up to be God's people had actually split into 2 countries. And not just 2 countries that didn't like each other, but 2 countries that hated each other. In fact, the top part, the north part, was attacking the south part, and they were getting their enemies, the Syrians, to help them with this. And yet in that darkest of seemingly darkest times for God's people, here comes this bright light of this one who's going to come, and he's going to be God with us, and he's going to be born of a virgin, and he's going to save us. And yet some people still rejected that light and wanted to stay in the darkness. Even the leader of God's people, no, we're not going to go with that. We're not going to have God help us out. I got a plan. And that should be the biggest clue that somebody is just floundering about in the darkness, having no clue of where they're going, when they say they have a plan that could be better than God's plan. Just this last week, my favorite quarterback was talking about how he's given up on religion because, well, if there's a God, he shouldn't be like this, and he shouldn't do that, he shouldn't act that way. And this is someone who is very sensitive to outside criticism of him as a quarterback. Well, you don't have the expertise to tell me how to be a quarterback, but he has the expertise to tell God how to be God. Just think of the foolishness of when people think they have a better idea than God, and how darkened their minds must be in their hearts. And how dangerous it is to walk around like that, not just in this world, but to recognize that you're going to come to this day of judgment clothed with such foolish ideas of salvation and try to stand with that. Or the people who look for lightness and brightness and hope in things, in money and pleasures and their position in this world, and how they keep thinking they're going to find it, and it's just so elusive, and they're never satisfied because they're just walking in that frustrating darkness, and they even blame God instead of repenting. And it just gets darker and darker, and they're groping around, and they deprive themselves of something really great they can have. And they're lost, and they get more and more foolish the darker it gets. They get this foolish where Isaiah says, when they tell you, consult mediums and spiritists who whisper and mutter, shouldn't the people consult their God? Should they consult the dead on behalf of the living? These people who get so darkened, they're looking for information from people who've already died? Or they're looking to all these gimmicky, hoaxy things to try and see into the future. And it's so popular, yes, even here and now. Remember those shows like Crossing Over? Or when they had those psychics on TV just blathering away and trying to guess the things that make the other foolish person think they're onto something here. And how people will use things like that, or maybe it's just for fun for a while, those Ouija board or horoscope or things like that, or the palm readers and all these fortune tellers. And all of them have the same thing in common. God detests them. He hates them. He can't stand them. He says, let no one be found among you who does divination, or who engages in fortune telling, who observes omens, who practices witchcraft, who consults a ghost or familiar spirit, or who inquires of the dead. Anyone doing these things is detestable to the Lord. They prove their rebellion against God. Not only is it foolish, because only God knows the future. Everyone else is just guessing, no matter who else you think you're using. Only God truly knows the future, so He wants to be the one who explains it to us. He doesn't want us looking for those kind of answers somewhere else. He doesn't speak to us in the spirits of dead people or ghosts. We recognize from God's Word that when someone dies, their body does start to decompose, to decay immediately, and their soul also immediately goes either to heaven or hell, where it doesn't communicate with us anymore. Now, we're Christians. We know God's Word. We don't discount the supernatural. But to think that we can communicate with some uncle or aunt or some friend or loved one who's gone on is just foolishness. God gives us two possibilities for it here. Either it's a mixture, combination of fraud and emotion, or it's evil spirits. The devil and his angels pretending to be something or someone that they are not. So either way, God's people wouldn't want that. Wouldn't want anything to do with something or someone who is at very best a fraud and charlatan, and at very worst an agent of the devil. And yet those who ignore God's Word and think that they can get answers somewhere else, that's how it always is. And they only get bad results. They only get misery, hopelessness. It says here, if the people do not speak according to this word, there will be no dawn for them. They'll pass through the land distressed and starving. And when this takes place and they're starving, they'll be frustrated. They will curse their king and their God. They'll turn their faces upward and then they'll look down to the ground. But I tell you, they will see only distress, darkness, and gloom that brings anguish. They'll be banished into thick darkness. Dishonoring, discounting, disrespecting the word of the only true God, refusing to listen to Him, only brings darkness. But there's hope, there's light. God's light. And the great thing about this light is it can overcome any darkness. Like that St. Francis of Assisi quote, right? There's not enough darkness in all the world to extinguish the light of even just one candle. And now this is the brightest candle of all. This is the biggest light, the brightest light there could be. Nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who are in distress. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned. We might live in distress at times, but we don't live in gloom. This is that 23rd Psalm, right? The Lord is my shepherd, and He gets us through. We pass through the valley of the shadow of death. Just like He tells us. And just like He tells us, God has loved us with an everlasting love. Just as He tells us, Lord, my times are in your hands. We have a God who we can trust, who we can count on to let us know anything about the future that we need to know, He'll let us know. And anything that He chooses not to reveal, well, we might be able to assume that that's because it's not for our best. We have a God who only and always does what is for our best. And He proved it. He proved it by giving us the light. This light that God's promising through His prophet here. Nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who are in anguish. In former times He humbled the land of Zebulun, the land of Naphtali. But in the latter time He will cause it to be glorious, Galilee of the Gentiles. Yeah, there had been dark times in Israel. There had been extremely dark times in this Zebulun and Naphtali. These were two of the northern tribes that happened to be the ones right in the middle of the invasion corridor. The place in Israel where every conquering enemy came through and trampled as they were coming to destroy those people. That's where the Syrians came in. That's where the Assyrians attacked. That's where the Babylonians came through. It was always there. It was always painful. It was always horrible. These people found themselves in the middle of all the enemy nations. Maybe like Poland, right? Between Prussia and Russia and Germany and the Slovaks. Only this is for many centuries more than that. Humility, pain, hardship, and all of that added to it being in the middle of a sinful, darkened, pagan society. But here comes the light. And some of you already know it because you were paying attention to the gospel and you realize the gospel we read this morning, that was the fulfillment of this prophecy that Isaiah is talking about. This great light that comes into the darkest of places, the light of the world. Jesus. As he shined into our human history. At that particular time and place, he shined in the middle of where Zebulun and Naphtali used to have all that horrible stuff going on. He shined as this is where God's Son grew up. This one who lived as the carpenter's perfect son. This one who for 30 years always loved and helped everyone with whom he came into contact. This one who helped and loved and taught and healed and preached. Right here, he made his headquarters where it had been so dark before. Now it was so bright with this message this Jesus was bringing. This message he would bring to its completion by dying. As he would leave this invasion corridor and go down to the capital city. As he would go to Jerusalem, to there take to this ugly hill called Golgotha, yours and mine and everyone else's sins with him, and then it would really get dark. So dark that, the sun stopped shining, we're told. So dark that the very Son of God called out, my God, why have you forsaken me? The complete absence of the light of God that we call hell. And then he died to make full and complete payment for all our sins. And when he came out of there, when he came back into the light of that first Easter morning, he had proven it to all of us that we have light, we have hope, we have everything. You know, the angel's message to the first visitors at the tomb was almost exactly the same as Isaiah's message here. They said, why would you look for the living among the dead? He's not here. He's risen, just like he told you. What does Isaiah say? Why consult the dead on behalf of the living? To the law and to the testimony. If they do not speak according to this word, they have no light of dawn. But if they do speak according to this testimony, then they have real light. That's light. The light that one really wise Christian has explained this way. He says, I believe in Christianity the way I believe the sun has risen. Not just because I can see it, but because by it I can see everything else. That's the light. And that light is everything. That's our hope. That's our life. That's our forgiveness. That's our relationship with God. That's our heaven. That's our forever. It's our everything. And you have it, and you live in it. The light of God's Word. The light of His Son, Jesus, our Savior. Stay in the light. Amen. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will keep your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen. Having listened to the word of our holy God, we now have the opportunity to declare together the faith He's given us. We do that this morning using the words of the Apostles' Creed. Would you please stand? I believe in God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. I believe in Jesus Christ, His only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and was buried. He descended into hell. The third day He rose again from the dead. He ascended into heaven, and is seated at the right hand of God the Father Almighty. From there He will come to judge the living and the dead. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the holy Christian Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and the life everlasting. Amen. Please be seated. blessed Savior, Jesus the Christ, though you can boast equality with the God of all the universe, still you humbled yourself and became obedient to the constraints of the law, badgered by human frailty and threatened by death. The mind which is in you thinks first about your brothers and sisters and what they need the most. Let that mind be in us too. Help us prefer one another in honor. Teach us to be all things to all people. Where some lack knowledge or interest in what is right, help us never appear superior, but let us learn with them the satisfaction of thoughtful and unselfish living. Help us to give ourselves so totally to the needs of others that we share their weaknesses. Like Jesus, let us be whatever it is our neighbor needs. All people are yours, and you seek them for your kingdom. Where we have failed to stoop to help the fallen or bent to bear another's burden, where we have passed by because the needy were too ill or too broken or too dirty for our hands and hearts to handle, forgive us, gracious Savior. Forgive us for our snobbery, our arrogance, our disdain. Make us friends to all. And from your goodness, give to each person what each most dearly needs. Now to you who are able and ready to supply all needs, be honor and glory forever and ever. For you are our Savior, and it is only in your name we can pray. And it is in your powerful name that we join together in praying the prayer you have taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Brothers and sisters, go in peace. Live in harmony with one another. Serve the Lord with gladness. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look on you with favor and give you peace.